Hello folks, in this tutorial we're going to look at creating backgrounds using fractal noise, gradient ramps and the blending mode of overlay. Now to get started I'm actually probably going to show you what we're aiming for first, which is this sort of simple background here. Nice sort of swimming kind of glossy movements. And it was created fairly easily just using two white solids with a fractal noise laid on the top of solid and a gradient ramp laid on the bottom solid. And the blending mode on this occasion we put to overlay, although in all honesty we may choose a different one as we go along depending on the colours that we use. So to get started, let's go to composition and new composition. I'm going to call this fractal gradient 2. I'm then going to go to Layer, New and Solid and just create a basic white solid. I'm then going to select it and go to Command D to duplicate it. Now to add fractal noise to the solid, make sure you've selected it here and then go to Effect, Noise and Grain and Fractal Noise. And this is what we get as a basic. Now, to be honest, if you actually want to sort of dive in and see some examples of fractal noise, one of the things you can do is go to Animation up here and browse presets. And when you go into the backgrounds folder, there's loads of good examples, the majority of which were made up using fractal noise. But I'm a great believer in trying to get to grips with how the effect works yourself. So we'll have a little tutorial today to run through it. So I'm going to start with the fractal type, and I'm going to put that to dynamic twist. I'm going to put the noise type to spline. And I'm going to crank up the contrast here quite high. I'm going to put it probably to over 200. I may adjust it a little bit more later on. And I'm going to take the brightness down just a tad also. Next thing we're going to do is expand the transform properties and deselect uniform scaling. That gives us a bit more control over the height and the width of the fractal noise layer. I'm going to take the height up to, well again you can play with it yourself to an extent, get an idea of what you want. I'm going to put up to about 500. And the width I'm going to probably leave about there. Again, it doesn't have to be too precise folks. To be honest, a lot of it with fractal noise is create something that you like the look of. As you can see here, there are many types that you can play with. And you can really create all sorts of interesting backgrounds and layers. Probably if you're new to it, you might want to go to Animation and browse presets, have a look at some examples, and you can see how they were constructed using fractal noise. Right, so anyway, we're going to leave width at that and height at that. That should do. And the thing that's going to give it its appearance, that's going to give it that nice kind of glossy look, is to take the complexity down a bit, like so. And it has these kind of lovely, almost like kind of ghostly, ethereal sorts of shapes. The more you take it down, the more sort of glossy it becomes. If you crank it right up, it becomes slightly sharper. But again, have a play with it. Create effects that you like the look of. I'm going to take it down to give it this fairly glossy looking effect. I think also actually I might actually change the height and width. I'm going to actually put those to, I'm going to put the height right down like so. I think I might put the width up like that. So actually it's more of a horizontal look than the vertical look we had earlier. Now to animate the fractal noise, you can use offset turbulence. You've got rotation as well up here, but I'm going to go for evolution and make sure your time marker's at 0. And I'm going to put a keyframe for evolution there. And I'm going to take the time marker up to about 4 seconds. Let's just take my preview bar down to about 5, or actually I'll put it down to 4, that'll do. And then I'm going to set evolution to, well, fairly slow. I'm going to put it to about 2. So as we scrub through the timeline, you can see it's going to have it's almost like a water sort of rippling in the background. It's going to be quite a big render this. I'm probably going to take the resolution down to a half here and here. Lose a bit of quality, but it will render a little bit more effectively at the end of the tutorial. Right, that'll probably do for the time being. But again, adjust according to taste. So I'm going to collapse Fractal Noise just to hide that. And to give it a bit of colour, I'm going to go to Effect, Colour Correction. There's a huge range to choose from, but probably Tint and Tritone are your best bets. I'm going to go for Tritone. That's the default colours, a nice kind of sepia tone. You can leave it at that, but I'm going to go to the mid-tones. I'm going to go for a slightly bluer hue, just like so. And click on OK. Let's render that out and see what we've got. So already, it's a pretty nice looking background. Again, if you're maybe doing an interview with someone and you just wanted something in the background, if you've shot somebody maybe on a green screen and you wanted to knock out the green screen and have something moved around in the background, this could be a fairly nice route to take. Bit of fractal noise, bit of tritone, and something just nice in the background if you're interviewing somebody. Now I want to do a bit of work on the solid underneath, so I'm just going to hide the top layer like so. And on the white solid, I'm going to go for Effect, Generate, and Gradient Ramp. If you're in CS6, I think it's called Ramp, and you'll probably find it down here. But in CC, they've got it called Gradient Ramp. Click on it, and this pops up. And again, it's a little bit of a dull colour, so I'm going to click on the black here and go for, again, something, just a slightly bluer tinge to it. Maybe something like that, that'll do. I'm going to click on OK, and I want to get rid of this white here. I'm not too keen on that, so I'm going to click on that. And I don't want to go for something too dramatic like that. Again, you can end up overdoing the colours. I'm probably going to go for something bluish again, but very, very light. Let's see what we got. That'll just about do it. Okay, that'll do. We're going from blue down to a very light, almost lilac at the bottom. Right, let's turn the top layer back on. And let's have a look at some blending mode options. We can go for multiply. Not too bad. Lighten. Interesting. Again, it's taken too much out of the mix, I think. To be honest, I'm probably going to stick with the one I suggested at the beginning, which was overlay. And it blends the colours together pretty well. I quite like that. Almost like a daydreaming sort of sky, almost like clouds moving around there to an extent. And I think if you want to give it a sort of a final push, and again, there's always a danger of sort of over-baking your effects, what you could do is, I'm just going to go to white solid here, and click on my presets, and search for glow. It will be under stylize, as you can see, and I'm going to grab glow, just drag it onto the top layer. And you'll find it just starts to grab hold of some of the white portions and just add a little bit more life into the animation. I'm going to switch it off and you can see the difference. There's before, slightly duller. The glow just gives it a little bit of poke. But the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to kind of choose your effects to taste. All of these things here, fractal noise, they can be adjusted in a wide variety of ways. Tritone, all sorts of different colours, and even the glow. If we adjust the threshold here, you can really start to make a change. You can actually bleed things out. Actually, I might do that. Actually put a little bit more white back in. It gives it a little bit more definition. But again, you've got to adjust these things according to taste. So I went for fractal noise, tritone and glow on the top layer, and on the white solid below, a simple gradient ramp with a light blue and a very, very sort of off-white at the bottom. And then the final object was to just go down to the blending modes, and I selected overlay. Let's see what soft light does. A bit too muted. I'm going to stick with overlay. I think it just brings the colours out a little bit more effectively. Let's quickly render that out and let's see what we've got. Yeah, not too bad. But what I'm just showing you there, folks, that's one of many, many options. But again, I think probably if you want to give an idea of what fractal noise can do, rather than maybe generating your own, you might want to go to Animation, Browse Presets. It'll open up Adobe Bridge, which I'm not going to do now because it will start to slow the tutorial down a little bit. But go to Animation and Browse Presets. And if you look in Backgrounds, there's a good 10 or 15 different examples in there, and all of them will be made up of fractal noise and various other layers mixed in with it. Okay folks, I'm just going to let that play out there. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. See you in the next one.